The moment a woman starts asking you questions that feel innocent but land heavy in your chest, your nervous system already knows something your mind hasn't caught up to yet. Desire doesn't announce itself loudly, especially when she's drawn to an older man. It disguises itself as curiosity, concern, and quiet assessment. I'm speaking to you as a psychologist who has spent years listening to women explain attraction when they think no one is judging them, and listening to men after they realize they failed a test they never knew they were taking. When a woman desires an older man, she is not just attracted to age, stability, or experience. She is scanning for something far more dangerous and rare: emotional gravity, and the first way she checks for it is through questions that seem simple, even polite. Here's the uncomfortable truth most men never hear. When a woman is drawn to an older man, she is already assuming he has power, emotional power, self-control, internal direction. But attraction does not survive assumption. It requires confirmation. So she tests, not because she wants to manipulate you, but because her nervous system demands safety before surrender. The first question doesn't always sound like a question. It often sounds like a casual probe into your past. She'll ask about your previous relationships, your ex, or why things didn't work out. On the surface, it sounds like curiosity. Underneath, it's a psychological X-ray. She is not collecting facts. She is studying how you frame your story. If you speak with bitterness, blame, or unresolved anger, her body quietly steps back even if her words stay warm. An older man who still sounds emotionally adolescent is more dangerous than a younger man who knows his limits. She's listening for ownership, not perfection. Ownership. Do you see yourself as the common denominator in your life, or as a victim of unfair women and bad luck? What most men don't realize is that she's not afraid of your mistakes. She's afraid of your blindness to them. A man who can calmly say, without self-pity or defensiveness, "I learned a lot about myself and I handle things differently now," signals something rare. He signals that his past does not control his present. That is intoxicating. If instead you perform, justify, or subtly audition for sympathy, the test quietly fails. She may still smile, she may still talk, but the desire begins to thin out like oxygen at high altitude. This is where older men often misunderstand their advantage. Age does not create attraction by itself. Integration does. Experience only matters if it has been metabolized into wisdom. Women sense the difference instantly. You cannot explain your way out of this. Your tone, pace, and emotional posture give you away before your logic ever arrives. And here's the part most men miss entirely. She's also watching how comfortable you are with silence after you answer. Do you rush to fill the space? Do you seek approval in her eyes? Or do you let your words stand without chasing reassurance? That pause tells her whether your confidence is internal or borrowed. When a woman desires an older man, she is asking herself a private question she will never say out loud. Can I relax around him, or do I have to manage him? The first test begins answering that question long before you realize you're being evaluated. This is not about being smooth, it's about being settled. Men who are settled don't defend their history. They don't dramatize it either. They treat it like a completed chapter, not an open wound. And when she senses that, something shifts. Her voice softens. Her body leans in. The questions slow down, because for the first time, she's not testing to protect herself. She's testing to see how far this desire is allowed to go. The second question comes when she feels just enough safety to lean closer, but not enough certainty to let go. It often arrives disguised as concern about your future, your routines, or your pace in life. She might ask where you see yourself in a few years, how you feel about commitment, or whether you're still hungry for growth or settled already. Men hear this and think it's about plans. It's not. It's about direction. When a woman desires an older man, she is not looking for someone who has arrived and stopped moving. She is looking for someone who is grounded enough to keep moving without panic. This question is her way of finding out whether your stability is alive or stagnant. Psychologically, women are drawn to trajectory more than position. A man with momentum feels safer than a man with achievements who is quietly drifting. So when she asks about your future, she is not asking for a 5-year roadmap. She is asking whether you are internally led or externally pushed. Here is where many men fail without realizing it. They either oversell certainty or undersell desire. One sounds rigid, the other sounds lost. Neither creates attraction. An older man who speaks as if his life is already finished communicates emotional closure, not leadership. A man who sounds unsure, apologetic, or vague communicates that he is still negotiating with himself. What passes the test is something far subtler: calm clarity without performance. The ability to say, "I know what matters to me and I'm building around that," without needing her approval or alignment in that moment. This tells her that your life has a center and she is being invited into it, not asked to become it. Women test this because deep desire requires surrender, and surrender requires trust. If she senses that you might abandon your direction to please her, she doesn't feel powerful. She feels responsible. Desire collapses under responsibility. Notice how this flips the usual advice men hear. You are not trying to convince her that you want commitment. You are showing her that you want a meaningful life, with or without her, and that commitment would be a conscious choice, not a rescue mission. Your emotional regulation during this question matters more than your words. If you become tense, defensive, or overly eager, her body reads it as pressure. If you speak calmly, with grounded enthusiasm, her body reads it as safety. Attraction is not logical, it is somatic. Her nervous system is always listening. Another layer of this test is how you handle uncertainty. Life does not reward rigid men for long, and women know this intuitively. When you can acknowledge uncertainty without anxiety, when you can say, "Some things are still unfolding and I'm comfortable navigating that," you signal maturity. You show that you don't need control to feel secure. Older men often believe women want certainty because certainty sounds masculine. In reality, women want resilience. They want to know that when life shifts, you don't collapse, cling, or disappear emotionally. This question gives her a preview of how you'll handle pressure later. And here's the detail that separates men who trigger deep desire from men who only get polite interest. After you answer, do you ask her something back, not to redirect attention, but to understand her inner world? Not a mirror question, but a genuine curiosity about what she values and why. This signals emotional leadership. You're not being interviewed, you're relating. When she senses that you are present, directed, and emotionally steady, something powerful happens. Her testing energy dissolves into playfulness. She laughs more easily. She teases. The conversation becomes lighter, warmer, more charged. That's not coincidence, that's her nervous system standing down. Because the tests were never meant to exclude you, they were meant to reveal you. What most men never realize is that these two questions are not isolated moments. They are part of a deeper psychological scan that continues long after the words stop. When a woman desires an older man, she watches how he lives between the questions. Consistency becomes the real answer. And this is where attraction either deepens into respect or evaporates quietly. After those tests, she begins observing your boundaries, not the aggressive, performative kind men are taught to display, but the quiet ones you don't announce. How you say no, how you protect your time, how you respond when something doesn't go your way. These micro moments tell her whether your confidence is situational or structural. Women are highly sensitive to emotional leakage. If your past still bleeds into the present, she feels it. If your future is a fantasy instead of a direction, she senses it. An older man who triggers desire is one whose internal world is organized. Not perfect, organized. There's a difference. Here's a truth that unsettles many men. A woman's attraction is rarely about how much you like her. It's about how well you manage yourself. Desire grows when she doesn't feel responsible for your emotions. The moment she senses she has to regulate you, reassure you, calm you, motivate you, the polarity shifts. She becomes the container. Attraction dies quietly there. This is why women who desire older men often test emotional reactions more than statements. She may disagree with you lightly. She may challenge an opinion. She may delay a reply or change plans. None of this is accidental. She's watching how quickly you personalize friction. A man who remains centered during minor disturbances signals safety under larger ones. Older men sometimes assume they must prove patience or understanding by over-explaining or over-accommodating. Psychologically, this backfires. It communicates fear of loss. What actually builds attraction is emotional neutrality combined with warmth. You don't withdraw, you don't chase, you remain present. And this presence is felt more than seen. Your body language slows, your voice stays even, you don't rush to repair imagined damage. These cues tell her that you are not dependent on her validation to feel whole. That independence is deeply seductive. Another layer of the test shows up in how you speak about women in general. She listens carefully. Not for praise, but for respect, without resentment. A man who subtly devalues women to elevate himself may think he's signaling strength. In reality, he's signaling unresolved injury. Women feel this instantly. Desire does not grow in the presence of bitterness. An older man who says little but speaks cleanly, without contempt, without neediness, without performance, creates space. Space is where desire lives. Silence, when it's grounded, is more attractive than cleverness when it's anxious. This is where age truly becomes an advantage. You've lived enough to know that not everything needs a reaction. Not every emotion needs a response. Not every moment needs control. When you embody that, she doesn't just feel attracted, she feels curious. And curiosity is the doorway to intimacy. Understand this clearly. These tests are not hurdles meant to disqualify you. They are invitations. Invitations to show that you are someone she can relax into, not brace against. Someone whose presence reduces noise rather than adding to it. When she realizes that being around you feels simpler, steadier, and emotionally lighter, desire shifts from evaluation to investment. She stops asking questions because her body already has the answers. And that's the point where attraction stops being fragile and starts becoming dangerous, in the best possible way. By the time she has moved past the two questions, she is no longer evaluating you on paper. She is feeling you in her body. And this is where older men either win completely or lose everything quietly without realizing it. The final stage of her desire is invisible, but its signals are unmistakable if you know what to watch. She begins observing how you operate when she is not the center of attention, how you speak about your work, your passions, your friends, your routines. The older man who attracts deeply does not need constant acknowledgement. He carries an internal gravity that pulls her in without a word. His world is alive, and she wants to see if she fits, not whether she completes him. Women test this subtly. She may invite you to events, casual gatherings, or conversations where other people are present. She watches whether you hold your composure, whether you honor your values, and whether you stay grounded in social dynamics without performing for her or anyone else. She is assessing your emotional constancy. Desire flourishes in constancy. It dies in inconsistency. Then comes the test of emotional openness. She will want to know your boundaries and vulnerabilities, but not directly. She will probe through scenarios, small hypothetical questions, or teasing remarks that tempt you to reveal insecurity. The older man who passes this test shows honesty without overexposure. He shares enough to be human, yet retains the center of his emotional world. This balance signals maturity and magnetic self-possession. Notice this. She does not want a flawless man. She wants a man who can own his flaws without drama. A man who can laugh at life, absorb tension, and remain steady when chaos appears. Older men often underestimate the allure of this equilibrium. Youth mistakes noise for passion. Women understand that depth often lives in calm. By this stage, desire is not just cognitive, it is physiological. She leans closer, mirrors your body, laughs more freely, touches lightly, but tests still occur through subtle feedback loops. She is still gauging whether your confidence is borrowed or built, whether your direction is true or borrowed from expectations, whether your presence feels like a haven or a stage. What defines the older man who becomes irresistible is simple. He is present, grounded, and self-contained, yet not aloof. He integrates past experience without burdening the present, and he moves toward the future without dragging others into his anxieties. Desire thrives where security and challenge coexist. Security from the man's emotional consistency, challenge from his depth, his trajectory, and the magnetism of his self-possession. If you understand this, you realize that these tests, past relationships, future vision, emotional constancy, and presence, are not barriers. They are invitations to display mastery over your own life. Every word, every pause, every gesture is being registered, and the older man who commands his internal state triggers not just attraction, but fascination. Here's a question for you to consider deeply. If she asks you to choose between proving your past or building your future, which do you show her first, and why? Think about it, then write your answer in the comments. If this truth shook you, hit like, subscribe, and share this video with the man in your life who needs to hear it. She is testing him every day. He just might not know it yet.